Hi, I'm Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is an attempt to show people what's going on locally and as well as and regionally. And today I have an unusual pair of guests. So I have Lasagna Love, I have Chris, and I have Nancy. Now, let's start with you, Chris. What is Lasagna Love?
Darn it, I knew you were going to start with me. Lasagna Love is a grassroots, nonprofit organization that was started during COVID by one mom who made a lasagna and put on Facebook saying, I have an extra lasagna, does anybody need it? And someone responded, is that the right? And it's just grown. It's grown. We are all volunteers. It's grown nationally, globally. We're in Australia, Canada, England?
No,
Not
in
England.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto
But
Rico.
Puerto Rico is part of the United States.
But we cover the whole United States. And we have home cooks who will deliver a home-cooked lasagna to your home with no questions asked.
Australia?
Yeah, it moved to Australia, I think, in the fall of this year. So Australia, all of Canada, all of the United States, and Puerto Rico.
Well, I've been to Australia a couple of times, and they're great people, very friendly. But for some reason or other, I don't match. Well, maybe I should, because there were a lot of Italians in Australia. But the thing is that lasagna has never struck me as being a real Italian dish, because my daughter-in-law, who's English, makes lasagna, great lasagna, and that's all she does. It sounds an awful lot like. Covered, like what the some churches do, covered dish.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's basically, food is a way of spreading kindness, and I think it doesn't matter whether it's lasagna, or whether it was chicken Alfredo, or it could be, a shepherd pie. It's the idea that you are bringing someone a home-cooked meal and showing them that you care in a time when period of life right now where people are so busy and there's so much going on that isn't kind, and it's just a way of spreading kindness and supporting your community, and it's a feel-good thing. And food that's the one commonality that we all have with each other. Everybody's got to eat.
Breaking bread is so important.
Yes.
We just had a recent comment from somebody that said, this is the time our family gets together for a meal, because everyone's going 5 different directions. But on this, they request a lasagna, everybody comes together and shares the meal together. So it's very special.
Yeah, it certainly is. How did you get started in this?
I started, the whole Lasagna Love started 3 years ago. Its birthday was March 29th. That was when the founder, Rhiannon Men, put out the Facebook post. And I was driving along, I think in my car, and heard her speaking on some radio station. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. We're beginning COVID, and everybody's at home. And this is something where you can have contact with other human beings and help them. So I think I started probably around June of 2020, so very much in the infancy of Lasagna Love, when there were only a few chefs or volunteers that were doing it. And as we got larger and larger, I started out as a volunteer. Rhiannon, months later, said, we're getting too big. She used to send us a spreadsheet of requests. These are people that, may need a lasagna. And I would make some and whatever, and then it just got larger and larger, and she wanted to have a meeting with people who were helping and said, we're going to bring in this new concept of you helping me. And this whole idea of being local leader. So I think I had gotten my hands wet for quite a while, and then it was just becoming so time-consuming, and Chris was one of our volunteers who was always stepping in and helping when we needed help. Mm-hmm. And I finally reached out and said, "Hey, Chris,
Real
Well,
man.
can you come help me?"
Skidmore doesn't have a,
Skidmore.
let's say, what I'd call a culinary program. Okay, so how did, and I don't think was it Xavier in Cincinnati has one either, because I know that the BC didn't have one.
Right, right.
Okay, so how did you get prepared to do this?
Well, I think one of our messages is anybody can become a Lasagna Love volunteer. And, if you can read, you can follow a recipe. You can use whatever recipe you want. You do when you sign up, when you become a volunteer. There's a series of training videos. They're short and sweet, but they make sure that you're preparing them safely. You get to choose your recipe. So we've done this with our volunteers, and we have like over 180 of them right now that are on the Cape, the islands, and Plymouth.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, we've shared recipes that they can use or they can choose their own. But we try to say, whatever you use, like one is, you can buy store-bought pasta sauce. You can then put together your lasagna, whether it has meat in it or whatever, but you can keep it as simple and as complicated as you want. We have one chef who, is of Italian background, and she has her grandmother's recipe that we shared with everyone. And we said, here, you can use this. I had a woman yesterday who said she wanted to volunteer. Could she make her own pasta? I said, absolutely, you can make your own pasta. But what we try to say is, you don't have to be a professional chef to do this.
Yeah. We follow, my husband and I follow, he does the cooking, Dave. We follow the recipe off the back of the box.
Okay, well, and as a disclaimer, I'm half Italian, and my grandmother used to have broomsticks that she used to put over chairs. She would roll out the dough, she would cut them by hand, and she would hang them to dry.
Right.
I remember doing that,
Yeah.
and I remember, buying a pasta machine that never worked, for let's see, for my wife, and I think we eventually got it replaced, and then my daughter has it, and she does make pasta on a regular basis. And same thing with the bread machine. I don't know if she sabotaged it or not. But,
Sounds like a good plan.
well, I actually worked in a bakery and didn't know how to bake at one point because my father was afraid that I'd never be able to support myself. So I had to, do something with my hands.
A real job.
That's exactly his words. Were you there? It must be an Irish trait.
I've heard it, yeah.
Okay. So when you talked about how you got involved with it by listening to somebody in the radio and being intrigued, how do some of these other people get involved in it?
Well, Chris and I do a lot of outreach.
This is a great opportunity.
Yeah. And just to, we took on a little more help, and we asked somebody, because I was spending hours and hours on Facebook putting posts out in the different communities for both requests and volunteers. And so a lot of it has been done through social media, but then a lot of it is also done through just what we're doing right here, going to health fairs, contacting churches, we just did a event for all the police departments in our areas where we delivered lasagnas to them. And every lasagna, or each lasagna that we deliver, has a delivery note with our information and how to request another one. But some of the police departments were helpful in saying, can we have your flyers? Can we get this out to people we know need it? And of course you can. And that's, so it's like a spider with webs. It keeps spreading.
Okay.
And outreach is a big part of what we do.
Well, I'm involved with a couple of food insecurity programs for the veterans, and we have a food pantry down in Falmouth on the first and third Tuesday of the month. And also there's an outfit called Mass Military support foundation that has a like a supermarket over in the old
Right.
Sandwich Police Station. So the next question is, somebody has to pay for the ingredients. Okay, how does that happen?
That happens, the volunteers are paying for their own ingredients.
God bless them.
And occasionally we get some donations, either when we're doing some type of outreach event. Chris and I go with our little outreach jar.
Donations,
donations
please.
jar. And we'll get, one time we
here.
had somebody put in $50,
Yeah.
but we did have one person who was sending us a $100 check, I think, and we'd converted into gift cards for groceries for our chefs in that area. So, but for the most part, it's the volunteers that are spending their own money on groceries, et cetera, for that.
And initially during COVID, I think it was a great way to help people without going outside your comfort zone. You could do your work, it's contactless delivery, you just arrange with the person for the place to leave it, you don't have to see them, they don't have to see you. So it's wonderful that it's grown that way. A lot of people want to help, they want to do something, but they also like to be at home, They don't want to have to go somewhere and the chefs can also set their schedule for how and when they want to volunteer. We have some chefs who are really, really experienced. They can do gluten-free and vegetarian and all these other different things. And they can say, I want to do once a month or I want to do once a week. So,
Or I want to just do one time.
Or I want to do just
We have
one
people that sign up and just say, oh, we just want to do it this one time.
yeah.
I want that one feel-good opportunity.
Okay, well, better than a poke in the eye.
Right.
The first thing that occurs to you when you're reaching out for support donations, some of the organizations on the Cape do look for opportunities to support organizations that are doing these sorts of things. Cape Cod 5, for example, has a community outreach, that looks to support different things. But the one of the parameters is there enough of an organization that's visible enough to, let's say, to receive donations, and that in order to get support from commercial entities, you have to establish that. And do you have that?
Well, the thing is that those kind of donations would go to LasagnaLove.org, and that is the global organization.
Now, do you benefit from that?
That's a good question.
We benefit.
And I think that I think
Yeah.
that's a way for
I think
us locals.
in the sense
with
that it's a nonprofit. However, there are salaries associated that have to be part of the organization. So in the way that we benefit from that is that it keeps the organization alive, that we have to pay for. We have a portal system, and it has to be manned by people that can do IT work.
What is a portal system? What does that mean?
It's a software program that allows the volunteers to be able to set their calendar, their profile, whatever they're doing. It allows them to put in basically their zip code, which puts them in the proper region, and then they are then part of that region. They then get matched by something that is connected to the portal, which is called the Optimizer program. And the Optimizer program is a software program that was developed by 2 MIT graduates just for Lasagna Love, so that it would set up, its purpose was to feed as many families as possible. So it tries to optimize the availability of the volunteers with the requests.
Now, do you do any filtering as far as identifying the people you deliver to?
Filtering is one of our basic things that we do not do. We feed anyone.
So
No
I could call you
questions.
up and say, how about getting a lasagna next Tuesday?
No.
Oh.
It has to go through LasagnaLove.org. It gets into the portal. So so you have to do it online. And so you request online, it goes into the portal system, and depending upon your zip code, it gets sent to the different regions. And yes, you can request, but that date that you get it is dependent upon who you're matched with, when it's convenient for them, and when it works for you. But
Okay,
there are no questions asked about your reasons.
No criteria at all.
Now, I'm not a Luddite, but if I didn't have a computer, is it possible to hook up with this?
Great question. Yes, that's why we try to work with like some of the senior centers, other organizations. We provide a paper request form so that someone can help you with it, even public library. You can take that paper request form, you can go to the public library, get on, and use an email account that they will help you set up. Or you can use the paper request form, and then we get a copy of that paper request form and submit it into our portal.
I'm on the
It's a
Friends of the
little
Library here in
complicated.
Bourne. Are you in Bourne? At Bourne Library?
We help out in Bourne, but we have not made that connection to the Bourne Public. We've done it with Plymouth Public Library.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we're working on now is what are our next steps
For
outreach? And the libraries, that Plymouth reached out to us, which was awesome. And it actually was eye-opening because at first we weren't thinking of them as a great resource to get this out, but then it is. And because there's so many different people that use the public library.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I worked
that's
with
one
the
of our-
Eastham Library with the children's outreach person. So we worked with them, gave them a bunch of flyers.
Yeah. There is something called clams,
Yeah,
Right.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
and clams would be one way of, of incorporating all the libraries in Barnstable County.
That's a good idea.
And then by contacting them, they
Right.
in turn could contact the libraries, and then perhaps
Right.
you could have, that would be an introduction, and then you could introduce yourself to the different one, let's say.
No, it's a great
Right, it's a
idea
great
because
idea,
that
yeah.
would take care of it versus us going individually,
To libraries.
which
Yeah,
is
well-
so time consuming.
Yes. Let's see. Barnstable County has what, 545 square miles, and
Barnstable County.
Barnstable County,
Yeah.
and there were two roads. I still have a deep antipathy over the fact that they spent $250,000 to put signs on evacuation routes on the only two roads you could use to get off the Cape. They had money for that, but they didn't have money for anything else.
Right,
So then,
right.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So there's that. Also, since you're in Brewster, you probably go over to Dennis, to the not the Council on Aging, but the Elder Affairs. I think that's where their headquarters are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've gone to a lot of the senior centers. We've given them our flyers and stuff. So
Yeah.
Wellfleet, East. I'm in Eastham, so we've been to all of them, and we've worked with Truro Community Kitchen, where Truro Community Kitchen, they feed 70 people every week. They started in COVID too. They operate out of a church there, and we've given them our flyers and gotten requests from people up there too. So.
In another life, I was the liaison between a utility company and the Massachusetts Restaurant Association. And the Restaurant Association, even, oh my God, 40 years ago, was still, getting requests from people for, for food and and to supply, let's say, support for need. Have you been in touch with those folks?
We have not.
No.
Because
No.
they also might be a source of getting more, I'd say more product in the hands of people that, that are putting
Yeah,
it together.
I think the global group is working with Ragu for our National
Yeah.
Lasagna Day is in July, so Ragu is
On
a
the back of
sponsor.
our shirts.
Well, do you want to
There's
stand
a-
up and show
there's-
people that?
there-
No.
No.
Several
Last
companies.
year.
It was from last year.
I think it was Sargento last year. No,
There's a whole bunch of them.
Pastine last year. was a-
Pastine in Canton has been helpful.
That's the Pastine, they make the soup, right?
They make pasta, they make tomato sauce, they have tomatoes, they have a great supply of an excellent product. I mean,
It'll
honestly.
make a lot of sense if you're making pasta, you want to sell a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, and they're local, and they have been helpful. But that kind of outreach where we're going into anything that is
Sponsored.
sponsored has to be done through the global organization.
We're the army ants. We're
Yeah.
the worker bees. Yeah, we're the ones getting people to cook and calling people and
Well, we're the ones that are trying to spread it in
Right.
our area, which
And another thing just occurred to me. I believe Four Cs still has a culinary
they do.
department.
Yep.
Okay.
They do.
Are you in touch with them?
We have had students volunteer before, but there has never been any formal partnership.
Well, call up President Cox. Tell him I told her to call him and say, why can't we hook up and do this? Because the students, when they're preparing meals and getting practice on what I'd call mass production.
Right.
Okay, this might be one way of
Right,
let's say
yeah.
of getting that done.
yeah.
Yeah.
We do that one would be helpful because we do a number of organizations on the Cape for Champ's House in Hyannis, which is a transitional housing.
Oh, Paul Hebert's still there?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't know.
I don't think so.
But we do their Friday meal. We've done that for years.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so we do.
How about Calvary Baptist? Because they had when I was at the county, one of the things that we had was we were trying to deal with food insecurity for kids, and we had set up a program during the summertime because where the kids were getting fed at the schools.
Right.
In the summertime, the schools were closed, and we set up a conduit, for to make sure that there was a food supply for the kids. Calvary Baptist, as I recall, was the was sort of the linchpin in that.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
they're just down the street from Barnstable High School. If you go down West Main Street,
Yeah.
you can see them over there.
Yeah. But we have the Champ's House. We have Liberty
St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph's, which is in Hyannis. We provide them meals once a month.
We do a lot with the veterans. We do
Veterans.
Liberty Lodge, which is a repurposed motel that now houses
Yeah.
18.
Well, tell people about that because I want more people to hear about those veterans benefits.
Yeah, we work with Liberty Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Once a month, we deliver 18 meals to individuals and then one family that lives there in the housing that's provided there.
Mm-hmm.
We also have done events with the Rotary Club in Sandwich, which works with Steve Jaros, and have provided lasagnas for, I think it was your gathering that you were talking about. They do on Tuesdays or something, and we've provided the lasagnas to feed the veterans that
Well, I think they were running at the Hyannis Golf Club. Then they got washed out, and they've been
This
going to
is-
different restaurants like Bobby Burns, and I think they did the bowling alley over in
this is where
Mashpee.
they would come and just grab a meal.
Yeah.
Grab
And
and
so
go.
it was like a grab and go type thing.
Oh, okay. This is different then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, the food pantry in Falmouth is more of a that comes from the Boston Food.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and actually, that's an outfit you perhaps should contact because the VSO and the Veterans Outreach, the Veterans Outreach in Hyannis, which is next to Keating's office over at with the
Yep.
Hyannis.
I know. I've driven past it.
Yeah, the on Stevens Street. Okay, is giving food away there. Okay, and they also might be a resource if you were targeting through them, the veterans.
Right.
That might be one way of getting sort of mutual assistance.
Yeah.
Barbara Ann Foley over there was worked from the Council on Aging in Harwich, for many years, and now she's now the now what I'd call the main doing. She's more of the chief worker bee
Right,
over there.
right.
So I would say that might be a resource.
That'd
for
be
you.
great. That'd be great. We had my husband and I had a young man working for us doing some yard work, and he's part-time, but he's in the Coast Guard. So he was working for us last week. I said,
Okay.
do you want a sandwich, or can I make you a sandwich, or I have some lasagna? He said, I'd take that over a sandwich any day. And I gave him all the information, and he said there's so many young men down on the base, and they spend so much money going to restaurants.
Well-
And I said, we have people ready to feed you.
We found that if you're an E4 or below and you have a family, you can't afford to live here,
Right.
and you can't afford to eat here.
Yeah.
So there are many people who are serving their country
Right.
and are enjoying base Cape Cod right now that could use this support.
Yep.
Now, believe it or not, we've actually come to the end of this program.
Wow.
Okay, close fight. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun?
You've given us some great resources. We really
Well,
appreciate it.
I'd also like you to give folks what you would want them to have as a takeaway.
If you need a meal, go on lasagnalove.org and request one. We have plenty of volunteers ready to cook.
Lasagnalove.org. Okay.
Or you can nominate someone who you think needs a meal.
Okay,
Or
well,
if you'd like to volunteer,
well, I think the nicest.
lasagnaLove.org/volunteer.
Okay, well, I think that's probably the more important message because, one thing I found when I was involved with running volunteers is that you have to consider the fact that you'll volunteer as long as you have the energy and time to do it, and it's not as much of a job as much as it's what I'd call a feel-good exercise. But then life intervenes. Okay, so
Right.
there's that. There's that. Okay, well, what do I do when do I deal with my Catholic guilt about walking away from something?
Things
Okay,
change.
Yeah, well, we all know about that, right?
Right.
Okay, and,
Right.
and I
That's
think
part
that's
of life.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's kept me in stuff a lot longer
Right.
than I wanted to be, and I wondered, well, why did I open my mouth to begin with to participate? So, but the thing is to spread it around. So, okay, so we've talked about resources, we talked about what they can do, and we'll emphasize again the lasagnalove.org/volunteer if you want to participate, lasagnalove.org if you just want to find out more about the program and participate.
Yes.
There we have it.
We love it.
How about our mission?
Go ahead.
I think our mission is one of the most important things, that we're here to spread kindness, feed families, and support the community.
She's good.
And with that, I think that's a great note to end on. So, folks, thanks for watching, because you've been watching and finding out more information about some of the great things that are going on in our community, and you've been given an opportunity to participate. And with that, you've been watching Bill's Bullpen, a production of Born TV.